You won't believe the tea we're spilling today. From secret breakups to shocking lies, this is Unreal Tea. Hit subscribe before the drama starts. Welcome everyone. We're in Wyoming again. But this isn't another Sister Wives season. This is the secret history TLC didn't want you to connect. Janelle didn't take a break. She disappeared. 5 whole years. Gone from Cody, gone from the family. And here's the kicker, she received the Robin treatment years before Robin even arrived. For all the mayhem and disarray broadcast on our televisions, the most shocking bit of Brown family tidbit is the one they hardly speak of at all. Janelle's 5-year Vanishing Act 2001, Gabriel is born. And pretty much right off the bat, Janelle walks out. Quits Cody. Quits Utah. By 2006, she's back, secretly purchasing the Lehi home in her own name. A step that bound her financially to Cody, if not emotionally. But what did happen in those missing years? Why did she leave? And why, 5 years later, did she return? Here's the ugly truth. While Mary and Christine fought alone in Utah, Cody was running off to Wyoming. And Janelle? She called that year one of the greatest of their marriage. Translation, Janelle received the special attention before Robin ever came along. And it all makes sense. The favoritism blueprint looked closely, and the trend is irrefutable. Janelle's children were raised with Cody in the spotlight, because they spent their childhood years living in a monogamous bubble. And the other wives? Abandoned, bearing the burden, getting by quietly. Janelle didn't complain much. Her go-to phrase was always the same, he's wonderful with my children. Repeated ad nauseum. More a survival mechanism than a statement of fact. Her detachment became her tool. If Christine was pursuing romance, Janelle was ruthlessly practical, sex, babies, cash. Nothing more. And it worked. Temporarily. Robin versus McKelty, the ultimate betrayal, but Janelle's stoic resignation isn't the only ghost hanging over this saga. McKelty used to love Robin. Praised her. Stood up for her. Even lived with her. But when she had the nerve to decry Robin's actions at Garrison's funeral, the mask broke. Robin cut her down. Overnight. The beloved daughter was made disposable. This is Robin's modus operandi, rewrite history. Play the victim. Clutch the pearls. And when someone comes close to destroying the facade, erase them. For McKelty, it was never about love. She was a pawn in Robin's battle against Christine. And when she was no longer useful, she was discarded. Robin's victory turns to misery. Robin struggled to be the favorite wife. She won. But the prize? A broke, bitter husband. A falling family income. And the dismal recognition that being the chosen one isn't everything. In-store windows and tearful confessional booths. Christine, Janelle, and Mary departed and flourished. Robin remained, and with each succeeding season, her radiance diminished, her despair intensified. She wanted Cody to herself. Now she has him. And it turns out, she doesn't even like him. The scandal TLC won't touch. And then there's Christine's most shocking accusation, that living in that small Lehi house was not just uncomfortable. It was abuse. Kids sharing beds with moms. Thin walls. Intimacy heard through. Call it poverty. Call it dysfunction. But once Solomon and Ariella shared Cody's bed well after money was coming in, that was not desperation. That was choice. The survival line blurred and the Browns crossed it over and over. The COVID cover-up. They want you to think the pandemic destroyed this family. But here's what TLC won't tell you, it wasn't COVID. It was Robin. Her fear became Cody's arsenal. Rules were bent when it was easy. Nannies flowed in and out. Restaurants were okay. But children? Off limits. Not safety. Strategy. Isolation in the guise of health. Control masquerading as concern. And Cody adored it. The final twist, Christine's treason. For the rest of us, Christine's departure was liberty. For Cody and Robin, it was betrayal. Treason. Because in their twisted reality, family doesn't exist without Cody. He is family. And anyone who has the guts to leave isn't ending a marriage, they're committing mutiny. That's why they punish. That's why they rewrite. That's why loyalty is bought off with houses and paychecks, and betrayal with erasure. But Christine's defiance destroyed their empire. The wives are liberated. The money is lost. And Cody and Robin are all that's left of each other, an outraged husband and a weeping wife ensnared in the devastation they wrought. The decision, as ever, was theirs. And why? Because McKelty had the audacity to point out Robin's inappropriate actions during Garrison's funeral. As Tony explained, it wasn't even about what Robin did. It was about what she didn't do. Either way, the consequences were immediate. As soon as McKelty had the guts to utter even a whispered criticism, her position as safe daughter dissolved. Crying, talking, and even letting loose one dissident thought became off limits. This is Robin's line. Redefining history with clasped pearls. The lady who claims she never lied about the children can't even get down to the bare minimum. Something as innocent as he liked his siblings, and I wish they'd gotten along better. But honesty has never been her forte. And what that did is that special experience between Robin and McKelty. What is so compelling about this break is the past. McKelty used to sing the praises of Robin, apparently believing her to be kind. I lived with Robin when my dad and Robin first started dating because she needed assistance. But did Robin ever really care for McKelty? Not likely. McKelty was just a prop, an easy means of showing the audience and more importantly the original wives. When Cody and Robin were taping, Robin simply observed McKelty just simply wasn't treated. That Robin was the one who was able to reach Christine's children where Christine supposedly fell short. It wasn't love, it was tactics. Robin's handling of McKelty is textbook covert narcissism, being hypersensitive to the slightest criticism, unable to forgive, and always positioning for optics. McKelty, on the other hand, is truthful to a fault, something that would never be able to thrive in Robin's circle. Their relationship was fated to fail because as soon as Robin did not need McKelty anymore as her PR barrier, the facade fell off. She burdens herself a lot. She burdens herself a lot with all of this. The tragedy is that McKelty herself longed so hopelessly to be a bridge among the broken families. Her dream was simple, that neutrality would earn her a relationship with her father. But the arithmetic was never going to work. Of all his children, she was the last one Cody didn't want to be stuck with. Eventually, the ruse fell apart, and she was left abandoned and used, again. Robin, naturally, used this dynamic to her own ends. McKelty's position as the forgotten child was ideal ammunition in Robin's never-ending battle with Christine. By incorporating Christine's daughter into her fold, Robin could stand up and claim victory publicly. Look, even Christine's daughter likes me best. McKelty's allegiance was never about affection. It was a tool used squarely against Christine. When the alliance finally broke, Robin spun it like she spins everything. It's just one more instance of them not wanting to be family with us. As proof that she and Cody were excluded from the start. Another convenient rewriting of history. This is not a safe conversation anymore. The larger problem is one the whole family can't help but tantalize, dangling half-truths in front of a public that has already witnessed too much. They hint, they prevaricate, but they won't tell, leaving spectators to fill in their broken stories. If privacy is the desire, okay. But then forego waving the dirty underwear like a banner while professing the dirt isn't there. Eventually, selective silence is dishonesty in itself. And that is the family business more than anything. You didn't want to marry us. You felt you had to. It's like, okay. Do you think it? I don't. Selling a glamorized version of dysfunction. Reworking the truth until it's barely recognizable as truth and then playing offended when nobody is buying it. Robin wanted to be the favorite wife. What she received was a broke, upset husband and a public that loathes her. Robin Brown's misery is the one twist no one ever should be surprised at. I believe that after we relocated to Flagstaff, all of us were looking at cracks. She complained about Cody turning into an angrier, tougher man for years following the family's Flagstaff relocation and the pandemic consequences. And although she's quite right, it was terrible prior to it's been 10-12 years of terrible. Cody has deteriorated into a tantrum of self-pity and rage. She's hardly a tragic heroine. Robin didn't want to be the favorite wife, just the only one. Now she's stuck with him full-time and it turns out even she doesn't enjoy what she battled so desperately to have all to herself. The irony is rich. This parcel of land with the idea that we would all construct homes here. And ever since, Robin has purchased a house by monopolizing Cody's focus. She broke up the family that bore the financial burden of her lavish life. With Christine, Janelle, and Mary gone, the revenue stream has dried up. But then we had to take out a private mortgage on part of it that we just didn't have the cash for, leaving Robin to deal not only with Cody's temper, but also his shrinking wallet. Throw in the sweet irony of child support payments, funds that Cody can't dip into the family fund, but must actually contribute himself, and one can all but hear the marital strife ringing through their McMansion. Robin's suffering is not just economic. Of course, there's also the vanity bite. The ex-wives escaped Cody, and they're doing just fine. Robin, on the other hand? The self-proclaimed victor of the sister-wives conflict, hasn't precisely had her glow up. She used to weaponize her appearance, having beauty be the reason for Cody's flagging interest in his other wives. But now, life with an angry, sulking husband doesn't seem like such a prize. Robin's rise and fall. Robin's history is a big part of it. Brought up in dysfunction. Rejected in childhood. Hungry for shelter and provision. And when she met Cody, it was so right. He was lavish enough to finance her fancies, pliable enough to love her unconditionally, and irresponsible enough to set fire to his own family on her behalf. It succeeded, at least until it didn't. Robin egged Cody's worst behavior on and demanded nothing in return. But when the competition was gone, the beast she set loose turned on her. Because here's the killer flaw, being the favorite wife only succeeds where there are others to surpass. Now, she's stuck with Cody, raw, bitter, and insufferable. She craved sister wives to reign over. Instead, she receives loneliness, bitterness, and the devastating realization no other man would ever burn his life for her shopping extravaganzas. Robin holds on to what's remaining, but the fissures are glaring. Her anger with Cody is seething. Her resentment oozes in each confessional. And the public ridicule? Shredding. Worst of all, her kids are now being dragged along into her world of fear and domination. Held to her side like liberty itself were perilous. Will they finally break free from what she never did? Christine's bombshell, abuse in the tiny house, and just when you think things can't get uglier, Christine drops a bombshell. Whatever went on in that tiny Lehi house, she says, was not just uncomfortable. It was abuse. Kids packed into rooms with their mothers. Spousal intimacy murmured through thin walls. Christine herself listening in on things no kid ever should. She implies it went over the line into sexual abuse. A bombshell of an accusation. But is it true? Poverty or abuse? The dark debate, some would argue it was merely poverty. Then communal sleeping had been the norm through history. Log cabins, single-room houses, infants in cradles alongside their mothers and fathers. The Browns weren't creating new dysfunction. But the ugly truth is this: children hearing, even sometimes witnessing, parents' intimacy just a few feet away. Christine confessed she did. And that alone leaves a scar. Little wonder the Brown family later obsessed over privacy. In their world, privacy wasn't about respect, it was about not hearing your husband with another wife. But the line is gray. Is this abuse? Or merely the sad arithmetic of too many children, not enough money, and no boundaries? But then there were decisions that can't be attributed to poverty. Decisions that sounded less like survival and more like dysfunction. The hollow crown. Robin might have won the sister wives' war. But her crown is burdensome. Her prize? A broke, irate husband. A reputation in shambles. And a gilded cage of her own design. Christine walked out and was free. Janelle walked out and was at peace. Mary walked out and discovered who she was. And Robin? She's stuck with the wreckage. One almost feels sorry for her. Almost. He does a fabulous job. That's my take. Solomon. And Ariella shared Cody's bed for years after space and resources were abundant. In contrast with the narrow Lehi years when Maddie broke the news that Savannah kept herself hidden by sleeping with Janelle on non-Cody nights, such choices weren't a product of desperation. They were decisions, and a disturbing one at that. I suppose half of me is foreign to the other half's opposition. Essentially, the Browns' shared sleeping is less a revelation than a reminder. History can account for these dynamics but cannot forgive them. The line between survival and dysfunction is a thin one. And in the Browns' case, it was crossed frequently. Sometimes by design, sometimes by accident. They want you to think that the Brown family dissolved due to CO. But here's what they're not saying. It was never with the virus what has occurred. With the way Cody's been with CO and how inflexible he's been with CO. The COVID family break is usually justified in a web of excuses. But one of the forgotten culprits is Robin's ability to weaponize hypochondria. Since the pandemic, she ensconced herself in a cocoon of fear so intense that no one else was allowed even a glimpse of normal life. No more in his interaction, and perhaps it's because Robin is the sole person with whom he exists anymore. Conveniently, Cody acted as her mouthpiece, imposing draconian regulations, and Christine and Janelle, blessed with common sense, saw through the absurdity. Of course, Robin's alleged fear of the virus never prevented her from indulging in contradictions. You were wondering how our nanny was able to. The nanny could go back and forth every day, but kids were forbidden from seeing each other. She and Cody were spotted at restaurants and shopping centers without masks, allegedly unvaccinated, but demanded the rest of the family comply with restrictions fit for a biohazard lab. Robin even refused to go see Mary after a fall because one of her kids had the sniffles, but was absolutely fine eating out with the same kid buckled into a car seat. The rules warped seamlessly whenever convenience dictated it. Just know that Cody has created these rules. Some say she was truly scared of both COVID and the vaccine, but fear is just half the equation. Robin has long employed sickness, actual or feigned, as an excuse to escape active parenting, to delegate care to a nanny, and to preserve distance from the family at large. Ultimately, it was not public health informing these choices. It was choice. This is sort of literally the backfiring of all my CO rules right in my face. In the meanwhile, Cody, whose tenuous authority was challenged by wives reluctant to kowtow to his whims, seized the moment. He doubled down not because of safety concerns, but because of ego. Now, with some prodding by Robin, he's seen the light. Well, there has to be a discussion. If Christine and Janelle had approached the pandemic with pragmatism, Cody would have done the same. If it weren't for Robin. With her insecurities and his need to dominate, Cody became a handy scapegoat for them both. She refused to get entangled with family. Do you understand what he is really saying? Bad behavior. Your bad behavior. And he punished anyone who would not prostrate themselves. The virus certainly existed, but the Browns' destruction was sustained. As much by Robin's hypochondriac cherry-picking and Cody's puffed-up ego as by any microorganism. Christine accuses Cody of mistreating her children, so why is TLC promoting a narrative that David is hanging out with him? The new season doesn't waste any time insulting its viewers' intelligence by proposing the outrageous notion that Christine's husband David and Cody can be socializing. If Christine's own book is to be trusted, wherein she explains years of Cody's abuse of her children, especially Truly, then the proposal is absurd. No female in her right mind would hand over her new beau to go golfing with the man who terrorized her family. Yet then again, nobody is here for genuineness. David, we're informed, doesn't care about being paid for appearances. Yet, somewhat anomalously, here he is smiling in front of cameras, plodding along with storylines so artificial they make Janelle's famous cocktail at the bar look downright spontaneous. If the paycheck is sufficiently large, integrity is optional. The show, in reality, has been operating on vapors for years. Cody lacks functional skills beyond profiting from dysfunction. So naturally, he's bound and determined to squeeze every penny out of TLC before the curtain finally closes. And so, I'm not going to be bypassed in that. He and his final standing wife have become rather used to the lifestyle that the network is funding. And dignity was the initial casualty of that situation. She'd been him you need to make up with. Mary. It is especially gling to observe the family attempting to spin lies about healing and making up when the reality has always been much uglier. What happened? They will be able to sit in their own homes and watch. From the start, they profited. Not just themselves but their children as well, making private suffering a money-making business. The quest for money has been unrelenting. From fact TV checks to the revolving door of questionable MLM propositions. At no point have people chosen the revolutionary act of simply finding employment. What initially attracted viewers in, the gritty, identifiable spectacle of a family struggling with an unconventional existence has long since dissipated. Initially, there were real moments, heroes and villains both that provided something tangible for audiences to latch onto. But the longer the cameras kept running, the more apparent it was that nothing about the narrative being peddled was real. This wasn't ever about faith or family. It was all about leverage, fame, freedom, rebellion, and above all, money. I am going to be viewing the first episode of this season, and I am able to discuss it. The rule of truth television is easy. Skeletons can be stashed away for a tasty tell-all in the future, but the central premise should at least have a semblance of truth. In this instance, the whole thing was a fabrication. And if audiences had been informed at the beginning that even the Browns themselves didn't buy into the fantasy they were selling, then few would have taken the trouble to watch in the first place. Christine didn't simply abandon Cody. She allegedly committed treason, according to him and Robin. This is why they regard her as ultimate in betrayal. To get a sense of Cody and Robin Brown, you can't think like a typical family. You have to enter a parallel world, a world where blood doesn't equate to love. It equals ownership. In Robin's distorted belief system, Cody isn't part of the family. He is the family. All others? Members. Subordinates. Thankful for the morsels of time and money he chooses to throw their way. That's why their so-called mission statement was never the Brown family. It was always the Cody Brown family. A small difference, but with huge consequences. Christine's exit equals treason. When Christine finally left, the world applauded. But to Cody and Robin? It wasn't liberation. It was treason. Christine didn't just abandon a marriage, she defied the crown. And in their world, betrayal must be punished, crossmark shunning. Crossmark financial denial. Crossmark a pilgrimage of abasement apologies. Meanwhile, loyalty is amply rewarded. Robin secured her booty by holding fast to Cody during Covert and Christine's departure. She ensured that within their twisted royal court, all funds went to her and her children. The Christmas debacle, the Christmas following Christine's breakup, laid all the above bare. Cody and Robin demanded everyone come to their home, as though Christine had never existed, as though neutrality was a form of betrayal. But the family stood firm. They opted to stand with Christine. Robin seethed, deeming the gathering a cheap version of family. Translation? She was angry that loyalty wasn't purchased with Cody's so-called authority. Cody's greed, what's yours is mine, Cody. and Robin are motivated by the same narcissistic coin. They don't love. They use. Cody's creed is easy to remember. What's yours is mine. What's mine is also mine. Houses, paychecks, possessions, he viewed it all as his to split like allowances. When Christine had the audacity to sell her home and retain the funds, Cody blew his top. In his head, that money was always his. The empire's fatal flaw, but Cody's empire was not designed to last. Contemporary mortgages and titles to property provided the wives with one tool Cody had never anticipated: independence. Legal ownership in their own names. That loophole was all that prevented Cody and Robin from having complete financial control. Without it, Robin's brazen assertion that the other wives actually owed her money for departing might have passed muster. Loyalty is currency, and here's the essence of their fantasy. In Cody and Robin's kingdom, the only thing that holds value is loyalty. Loyalty purchases love. Loyalty purchases assets. And betrayal? The check always comes due. But what happens when the last of the loyal subjects realize the throne is rotten? High voltage. It's not family drama. It's a kingdom falling apart, governed by narcissism, driven by betrayal, and headed for destruction. This family's drama is far from over, so smash like if you're #TeamWives, subscribe for the next explosive update, and drop a comment below. Who do you think will win? Stay shady, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next scandal. Kiss mark behind TLC. Sister Wives out.